Well, folks, how you doing? I'm back. Figured today we'd talk about, just kind of hit lightly on welders, MIGs. A lot of guys out there do body work, and they work on cars, trucks, light trucks, not semis, light trucks, and trying to figure out what's good to buy. Well, it's always been my thing that you don't need any great big huge welder. And the reason I say that is biggest reason I say that is this right here. See that gun right there? Oh, got a little bit wire. See right here? See, that gun's a small gun. It's easy to get in places. It's not huge. Some of these other welders, bigger the amperage, this weld is gonna get a lot larger. It gets to be a pain in the ass, is what it is. So you're better off going with a little smaller welder. My dog's laying here trying to eat my gun. There. He's just a pup, he doesn't know any better. Anyways, you want something with a smaller gun. Plus you want to look at duty cycle. This thing right here is a 175 amp max. Runs to 25 to 175. I mean, when you're welding 22, 20, 18 gauge sheet metal, you don't need a lot of amperage. And usually the more you turn the machine down, the better your duty cycle goes. And your duty cycle, just look at it like this: out of every 60 minutes you run it, and you got a 30% duty cycle, well, you can only run it 30% of 60 minutes. You just have to do the math. But really, that's a lot of welding on stuff like that. And plus, you're going to turn the amperage way down, because that's what this is. This is 130 amp at 30% duty cycle. Now, if I cranked up to 175, that duty cycle would drop down. It'd be less. That might drop down to 15. But then you also got your wire diameter, your size of your wire. And when you're welding light sheet metal, yeah, I mean, they've got 23 gauge, 24 gauge. That's really about where you should be, so you don't put a lot of heat into the panel. I mean, I got mine set up for 30 right now. And I weld light gauge sheet metal with it, and it does fine, but to each his own. You get one, you practice with it, you'll get better. And I found you don't need a lot of fancy features on one. Just a basic, straightforward, inexpensive welder. You know what I mean? Inexpensive, I don't mean the lowest price welder you can get. You got to go out and check this stuff out. I mean, if you buy a Lincoln, and that's what this is, or a Miller, I don't think you can go wrong. Guys should be fairly knowledgeable, should have brochures on it. Heck, you probably look it up online, kind of figure out what you want. But you don't need a big unit. Bigger units, yeah, if you're welding some 1/2 inch and up, probably, yeah, you might want a bigger unit. Yeah, you definitely would. But for light duty stuff, car bodies, yeah, you can get by with one of these no problem. And the other thing is too, is if you order one and you get one with a longer cord for the gun. This is a 6-footer. You probably want to go twice that if you can. Get a 12-footer. Because when you're on one side of the car and you want to be welding on the other side, it makes it awful nice. You know, most of them, you know, your mix argon CO2 usually. But I mean, this is just touching the surface here on the welders. There's a lot more to it than that, but like I said, you want something with a decent, you know, duty cycle. Doesn't have to be super high, but that's where your money is going to get spent. The more duty cycle you have means the longer you're going to be able to run that unit, and the more expensive the unit is. You know, you get into a commercial unit, I mean, that's a continuous run unit. Industrial stuff, yeah, they cost a lot of money. And like I said, you don't need a great big unit. And all the whistle and bells, like stitch welding and stuff like that, I've never used it. That's what you got a trigger finger for. I don't know if it helps you, but makes life a little more confusing for you, but I don't know if I explained it well or not. You basically want something with a smaller gun. Bigger unit's going to have a bigger gun because they have more amperage. You want something with a longer lead cord and your duty cycle. And you don't need a ton of duty cycle when you're doing sheet metals. You're going to turn it down anyways. You're not even going to use 130 amp at a 30% duty cycle. You're going to use less, and your duty cycle will go up because you're using less amperage. So it's not rocket science, but it may help somebody figure out what the heck they want to buy. And I'm sure there's a lot of cheaper units out there now that I've never heard of that are probably fine. But any place that's worth its weight, they're gonna have a room set up that you can test these welders out. If you can't test the welder out, I wouldn't buy it. You want to test the thing out. You want to go out back, put the helmet on, fire that thing up, and go. And if they won't let you do it, walk out the door. They're not worth buying one unless you've already tested the thing out, or a buddy's got one, you've used it, and you're like, yeah, I like this. Well, then you know what you're buying. But if they won't let you test it out, find a shop, find a place that will. Good places will have a setup for you to use a welder. See if you like it or not. Well, like I always say, you guys, take care now. Be kind and generous to each other. Things ain't getting easier.